Not really Sophie Hyde. Got it?
So do I call you Dad now?
Whatever you're comfortable with, I suppose.
Dad. When will I see you next? Dad? Dad, 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 Dad. Dad?
Next week, same time. Eat with your chopsticks, honey, not your fingers.
It tastes better. Dad.
It's rude, Billie.
Oh, that hurt.
It did not. Eat properly.
But did you already have any screenings here at the festival of your movie? Last night. And it was the world premiere or the European premiere?
It was the European premiere.
How was it?
It was amazing.
Yeah?
Huge cinema.
Felt bizarre, didn't it, doing the red carpet thing? We're all a bit like, oh, we don't do that. So that was fun.
And the
funny.
audiences, Generation seems to be a very warm kind of program, and the audiences were all ready, you know, to watch the film, and yeah, it was amazing, wasn't it?
But was the audience mainly young guys or young people, or was it?
It seemed to be a fairly broad range of ages, I think. But I did have some guys that were, I guess, quite young, like early 20s, late teens, come and talk to me afterwards. So it's definitely younger people in the audience. Yeah.
And how were the reactions also during the movie? I mean,
we don't watch it.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
So I don't know during it.
Yeah,
but
people, the others went in at a crucial moment and everyone went, like
that's cool.
The question, the Q&A was really lovely, like good questions. But the people that love the film come and talk to you, so you only know the nice bits.
Yeah. And you also had the premiere in Australia already?
We screened in Australia at Adelaide Film Festival. They're investors in the film, so, and then we went to Sundance, so we did our international premiere at Sundance in January.
And how was the response there? Also,
yeah, great. Really like amazing. Big audiences, like not large cinemas like this, but very passionate audiences, and people just grab you on the street and talk to you. It was great, really good. Yeah.
That's nice. And you, I mean, if I'm informed right, you made documentaries before that, and I mean, you can also see that in the movie, I would say. You have this focus on every Tuesday, so it's just every week, and you also have those bits and pieces from news journals in there. How did you get the idea to make this movie after making documentaries?
I think I always wanted to make fiction films as well. In fact, I kind of like to just work in whatever form suits the story. And in some ways, crafting a documentary feels a little bit like you spend a lot of time uncovering what you believe about a story and understanding something about a story, and then you craft it into a film. And so it feels kind of created anyway, in some form. And so this is kind of the opposite. It's like a fiction film, and you spend a lot of time trying to bring an authenticity and a reality to it. How did we start making it was that Matt Cormack, who's the co-writer, came to us with the idea of, let's make a film where every Tuesday two people meet for a year, and let's film it on Tuesdays. And we were all really interested in that idea because we knew we were going to work on a very low budget, and we wanted to make something that we could never make any other way. And we decided that this would give us a chance to kind of experiment with the craft and the form of filmmaking and how we made something, and allow us to be inside that process for a long time. And through the development period, we came up with the characters, and the characters came up, you know, led to the story. And I guess, you know, we were interested in a few things. One was authentic change, like the idea of change in time, and one was just the industrial model of maybe making a film in a different way than most people make a film, or the standard version of filmmaking.
So you basically had the idea of the form before you had the content for the movie?
That's right, yeah. Okay.
And the theme of the sex change and transsexuality, is that something that is controversial in Australia, or is that rather something where you would say, yeah, it's accepted?
I don't think I would say it's controversial exactly. I don't think I'd say that it's accepted either. I think that gender and anyone that challenges the sort of standard or the norms of gender identification and is very challenging for loads of people and everybody. And I hope that people more and more are accepting of people making their own choices about how they live. But I do think that it challenges something fundamentally in us, because we're so raised with this idea of this is what a boy does and this is what a girl does and this is how you need to behave and this is what makes you you. And when someone says, that's not what makes me me, or I don't feel I fit into that, we are all deeply kind of provoked by that, I suppose. And that's interesting to me. It's interesting to me anybody that can question the norms of their identity or of how they're supposed to live, and actually question how they want to live and what their choices are. Yeah.
But now you do not only have, I would say, in the role of the mother, but also in Billie's role, who's also testing out her sexuality, trying out new things. How was that? I mean, I imagine that it's also a very personal thing to do that you also start thinking about yourself when you shoot those scenes and your own youth, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think that growing, like, having a film set when you're going from 16 to 17, like, that's a pretty crucial time in your world where you do grow up a lot. Like, I grew up so much during that film, and so much of it was from having, like, those sort of conversations and exploring all of those things. Of course. So it made me question things in my own life, and I don't know who I'd be without Billie anymore, or who Billie would be without Tilly. Like, it was, they so informed each other. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, Tilly brought so much to the role. She so influenced the role, and I know what she's saying too. Like the role and the process of making the film influenced her. But we spent a lot of time talking about, how young women are presented on screen and how sexuality is presented on screen for young women. And I don't even mean in that kind of decision-making way of like, am I gay, am I straight, am I bisexual, but more in the...
I don't think it was thought about like that. It was more about like, it's about curiosity and asking questions and like trying to work out the world. And if your mother's going through that, that's sort of the thing you need to think about as well. Like, I don't think it was...
And to me, it's about kind of I so often feel like young people are told like you have to behave a certain way, you have to choose what you are, you have to choose who you are. And in terms of just even having sex, you're so defined by kind of pornography and issues of how things look, or the rules of who you're supposed to fall in love with or who you're not supposed to fall in love with and how. And for me, it was really important to tell the story about teenagers who actually were able to understand or think about how they feel, and that sex could be something that you decide what feels good rather than what looks good to the outside world. That was very important.
Yeah, I also had the feeling that Billie was a person in the movie who is very active and very energetic and really knows that she wants to try out things and wants to go her own way, in the meaning that she's not trying to fit into something that already exists, but trying to find her own way of life.
Totally that, and also not quite ready to step into it. We often had that conversation of like, Billie very much, observes a lot of what's going around and tries to process that, but it takes a little bit for her to step in and actually like involve herself in situations. Yeah.
That's right. I think all of our characters in some form are all designed and all do question identity and question the norms of who we are. And they were kind of created with that in mind, I think. But Billie in particular, she's a very curious character, and she's a very controlling character, and I think we only realised that as we were making the film, that she's actually, for someone that's so young and inexperienced, is quite in control of her surroundings. And I think that's what messes with her so much, because she actually isn't in control of this one big thing in her life, which is where she's going to live, and she's not been part of a decision, And so that a lot of the film is about her trying to regain some sense of control in that.
Isn't this taking of videos also a way of trying to control the situation? I mean, for me it also had a bit of a voyeurism in it, that she's filming a lot of things and that she's keeping the records of it. Is that also mean to get control of the situation?
She's definitely voyeuristic, like the character. She watches, and I think that first scene where she's watching the teenagers through the door, I think she's unsure of what it is that she feels in that moment. And She doesn't know if she's excited by that, interested, if there's just the situation is intriguing to her, or, you know. And so a lot of the film she's trying to work that out. Like, what is it I like and I want? And for a long time she does that, you know, through the camera, trying to look through the camera and see that. And she sees her mum, you know, trying to see change in himself, you know, like filming himself, and this promise of change and this focus on change. And so she thinks that maybe the way to discover the world, I suppose, is through this camera, as well as protecting herself from the situation. It was really
becomes more
raw.
like a study, of people rather than...
Absolutely. And then even it becomes a study of herself. So when she turns the camera around and she's finally trying to talk to Jasmine and tell Jasmine all those things that she's failed to express to her, you know, it becomes a study of her trying to reveal something about herself.
Yeah, I mean, and it was not only in that. Also, when the mother or the father goes to California and is talking to all those other people who have sex changes, he records those people and they are telling their stories, which I found very interesting, because it is something that's happening on the internet, that people record themselves to let other people see what they're doing, to have them participate. And I was wondering, are those records real, or did you ask actors to do that, or did you go to, I don't know, a congress or something?
Oh, no, they're all real, definitely. We became quite keenly aware that the form of our film meant that we didn't really get to see outside of James's Tuesdays with his daughter. And so we never saw his life, you know, the community that he might be with his friends, things like that. The experience of taking him away was our acknowledgement that as a character he needed to go and think about life and how to, you know, be a man when he wasn't able to take hormones and things like that, to see a broader perspective on that. Those guys are all real, and we met them along the way. And you know, for me it was fascinating to see finally a different sort of many variants of the experience of gender in these guys, you know, rather than just James, who is a very specific character and certainly not representational of a kind of broader transgender population or anything. Do you know, so it was nice to just a little bit of like pointing to how many different experiences of that there are and how personal that is. And then we met Monica, who had the experience where her dad had transitioned to being a woman when she was 17, and it was so close to the character in our film, and so interesting. And she talked about so many of the same experiences that the character was going through. It was, you know, it was an amazing time to go and do that. Yeah.
Well, this intermediality thing is something I saw in a lot of movies this year, especially in movies about young people. And a theme that always occurred was that it's a good thing, but there are also dangers. And I think that's also very visible in your movie, that there is the danger of those records that Billie took becoming public, but at the same time, James is using it as a way to find a new identity. And I found that very interesting, that it's always those both things in there.
Yeah, I mean, that conflict is so present in life, and is a really, you know, for me, social media is an exciting, beautiful thing, but it comes with danger as well. And I don't want to be provocative about that, because I love it. I think the good outweighs the bad. It's just that it increases our the responsibility we have to each other, to treat each other well, and to be conscious of how we put ourselves out in the world. I think that most of us that made the film have the great pleasure that we live very out loud. We live very authentic lives, and we are able, therefore, to have ourselves online and everything as ourselves. I don't think everyone has that luxury. I don't think everyone can do that. And the experience with these guys of the video recording, that was never originally going to be part of the film, and the danger of would it get put online, and this friendship that's so trusting, but they're so young, and that could go away at any time, you know. But our feeling of that what would be so bad if it got put online, you know, that we would keep having this question. But, you know, the woman that plays the principal in the film is my auntie, who is a high school principal, and she was really, you know, she's a very liberal woman, but she was really sort of certain that, you know, this is a black and white issue. If she's sending a naked photo of herself, she's got a problem that needs, it's a problem, and it's not
really
okay.
For us all to learn, I think, having those conversations.
Because we're much greyer about it, aren't we?
And like a child, or like when is that shame about your body that comes with that, like that you're not allowed to be.
Yeah, we did talk about that a lot.
Wrong.
The idea that nudity is somehow, because we try and protect our young people and our children, there becomes this idea that nudity is somehow shameful,
or nudity
that it's actually pornography, and that
than
it's sexual even. Because for us, we talked a lot about that nudity, of course, is just nudity, it's just life. And that what are we teaching people if we're so ashamed and so worried about it? Anyway, it's a complicated issue.
Yeah, but something I was just thinking is that nudity is also something you see in art very often. I mean, in art it's very normal, especially naked women, which is probably because a lot of men painted pictures that you see a lot of naked women, but their nudity is completely accepted.
There's an artist in Australia, Bill Henson, who's a beautiful photographer, and there's been a lot of controversy over the last few years of doing photos of quite sort of pubescent, like girls and boys. And you know, a lot of, I mean, he really got into a lot of trouble at one point, and we talked about that stuff a lot of, you know, what are we saying? Why is the viewer's position on this more important than the artist's?
Something else I still want to ask about the family relationship was the parents, like James's parents are not in the movie. You only have the kids in there, if I'm right. Why was that decision? I mean, I guess for James's parents it's also interesting to see, or am I mistaken now?
James, the mother,
yeah,
is his parents in the movie.
Exactly, but James's parents are not in the movie.
No.
So you don't. Was that a decision you consciously made that you did not want to have them in there?
That's a great question, actually, because the family kind of expands at a certain point, and Matt, the other writer, at one point did have a whole storyline with James's parents. And I guess it got taken out just because the story shifted to being more about other things, you know, because we were scripting still as we went, so certain things came in or went out, depending. There's a little reference to his parents. Harry comes in and into bed with Billie in the morning, and there's a reference to them not turning up to Christmas, James and Harry not going to their parents for Christmas, and there being some kind of problem around that. I think we just couldn't put everything in. I think, you know, in a lot of ways we could have explored the circles that go out, you know, the ripples of this family for a long time, but so much of filmmaking is just choosing certain paths to go on.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, already the person of Harry is very interesting in there, to have the baby brother, as he's called, and I found it interesting that he's also wearing female clothes in between, that he's sort of somewhere playing or somehow playing with his gender as well. And yeah, I really like that sort of as something that is, yeah, something very normal just on the side, like nothing that has to be debated as a big issue or anything.
I think in film we so often think, oh, if we're going to make something about someone who's biologically female becoming a man, then we're going to need her to start in a long dress and with long hair, and as though she's the most suburban mother ever, you know, for us to see the dramatic potential of a story. But actually life just, to me, just doesn't feel like that. You know, our experiences of gender and who we are is so varied to that, or so, you know, flexible. And certainly there are people that, you know, embrace kind of a fluidity or like a kind of feminine side of themselves. And, you know, I think Harry's also quite masculine as well. There's a kind of duality. And yeah, I mean, to me he's an important character. He's a provoker and he pushes things around. That's important, yeah.
And to ask another question about how the movie is perceived, you already said that you talk with people who sort of had the same experiences in their lives. Did you make this experience that people after the screenings came to you and told you, yeah, I can really find myself in this movie?
We did, in a lot of different ways, I think, as well, like whether it was connecting to being a teenager or knowing someone that had gone through a similar situation. But that's always the most exciting thing. That's been the most fun, when someone comes up and goes like, thanks. Like I had that, or that was never talked about. I think that one woman that came up and said, I love that Billie didn't choose in the end. We were like, what do you mean? Like we'd never really thought about it, and it was that thing of going like, it wasn't like you have to be straight or you have to be gay. Like those sort of things where people can feel like that was them and that it's okay to not know. Or like I think those sort of responses have been really exciting.
I do feel that people come and like really talk to us as though it's very personal, kind of almost like, not that they've had the same experience, but that they feel somehow kind of connected to an idea in the film or one of the characters. You know, that does happen a lot. It is the nicest part of it. It is definitely the best bit. And, you know, we created this little app called My 52 Tuesdays, which is a free app and people download, and every Tuesday Tilda asks everyone a question on a piece of paper and everyone responds by taking a photo of their answer. And in a really similar way, they're having this very personal experience, their own 52 Tuesdays, and also having a moment to think about some of the themes in a way that kind of connects to their own lives, about their relationships and their sex life.
And see how everyone else around the world is also responding to the same thing. And I think what's so exciting is they're always so different. And you go like, wow, I never would have thought about that. Or
well, the more personal and the more like specific things get as characters, or even as someone responding on a project like that, the more, I don't know, connected to people I feel. Like you don't have to have the same experience to feel like, you know.
And it's a community or social media thing that's based around how you feel rather than what it looks like, and you can choose to make it private or not, and it's more about having a conversation about the real things instead of like putting on Facebook that you're like, I ate a sandwich or something. It's like asking a question that you don't get asked every day. Like, what does it feel like to kiss was one of our first ones. And
What would you tell your mum?
Yeah.
And you're still doing this app? Or
Yeah, so it's if anyone, you know, started now, they would still get 52 questions from now. So we released it in October, so we've got a whole lot of people that have been doing it since then, and some that have come on since January. But everyone does the same question around the world at the same time, but you still do your own 52 Tuesdays.
Yeah. Well, that's an amazing project. That's very interesting.
Yeah, we're really excited by it. We love it. Yeah.
And about the personal contact with people at the festival, are you going to have more Q&As here, or?
Definitely. Like, I think that's definitely our favourite bit of the festival. The Q&As are so good. We're going to go to all of our Q&As. I think we've got one this afternoon.
Yeah, we do.
A couple more. Yeah.
And it's great when it continues out to the foyer, like being able to discuss it. I think because it was a year, like there's so much that we are still excited and passionate to talk about that you don't always get to say. So it's great to have that.
And that change when an audience is talking to you.
Yeah.
Like the piece of work changes, and in terms of how it's received, and that's a very fulfilling thing as somebody that makes things, you know, to finally be talking to an audience and in dialogue about their ideas. Yeah.
Well, then I hope that you're going to have lovely Q&As during the festival. I wish you a lot of fun here, and enjoy the Berlinale.
Thank you.
Thank you for the interview.